is Lucas Spielberg.
And this is Ashton Spears.
And we definitely watch WGS-TV. We're going to own it. Definitely going to own it.
It doesn't really matter.
Yeah, really. Respect my veteran!
Hello everyone, welcome to another installment of WGS-TV right here on youtube.com/WrestleGameRansFXTV. I'm Billy Boudreaux, being joined by the host of Hardcore Wrestling Radio, which can be heard every Wednesday night on blogtalkradio.com/Hardcore Wrestling Radio. The illuminous one, the Shining Star Rick Starr. Rick, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing all right, Billy. Thanks for having me.
Well, we're going to talk about Impact Wrestling for the week of February 21st, 2013, which I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Rick, this is the last episode in London, in the UK, for this UK tour that they've been doing.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it has been, and it's been a pretty decent tour so far. So usually whenever they go to the UK, they usually put on a great show for them.
And the UK does have a lot of great Impact fans, as opposed to the Universal Studios fans, or I don't even know if I would even classify them as fans. But anyway, let's get to the show this week. As we open up with Hulk Hogan coming out to talk about who's going to be the new #1 contender to Jeff Hardy's title at Lockdown. And lo and behold, he lays the bombshell, and boy, that was about a very low-grade bombshell that is going to be Bully Ray. Bully Ray comes out with a look of astonishment. Now, at this point in time, he's still trying to sell the quad injury. And if you guys are wondering why I'm talking about it right now in this opening segment, you're about to find out, because Bully Ray then makes a suggestion for Hulk Hogan. You know, first off, he thanks him for giving him the #1 contendership and the shot against Jeff Hardy inside the steel cage at Lockdown for the title, and then makes the suggestion that they have a 6-man tag tonight, 3 members of Aces and Eights versus Bully Ray, Sting, and Hulk Hogan. Now, for someone who's supposedly supposed to be selling a quad injury, suggesting to put yourself in a 6-man tag match that night, wow, good job on the writing, TNA. I mean, that was just really, really freaking stupid.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you there, Billy. Everybody knows that Triple H had a very similar quad injury, and when someone has that kind of an injury, you're just not out for a couple of days. You're out for a year, especially when it has surgery. So TNA even went so far as to say that injury was legitimate. It wasn't, so when they're trying to back it up, that doesn't say much.
3 out of 5 on this opening segment. We go to backstage. We see Austin Aries and Bobby Roode talking with each other, and then they get approached by Daniels and Kazarian, and Daniels, Kazarian, you know what, you guys, when we're out there, you follow our lead, and then they vice versa. Bobby Roode and Austin Aries said, no, you guys are going to follow our lead, which now leads up to the opening match on Impact Wrestling this week, Rick, which saw Daniels, Kazarian, Roode, and Austin Aries taking on the team of Chavo Guerrero, Hernandez, Cowboy James Storm, and Joseph Park. Talk about what happened in this 8-man tag.
Well, this 8-man tag, I'll have to say, it was for the 8-man tag, it was really a great match. It was a lot of quick tag match, a lot of great action. But, of course, what have we did see Austin Aries and Bobby Roode, leave the match in the usual fashion. That's been kind of their calling card, so to speak, as of late over the past couple of weeks. When things just don't go right or things don't work out, they leave. This, of course, caused a distraction. This, of course, gave the face team, I'm just going to call them because I'm not going to name all the names, the upper hand, thus giving them the win over the match. This really kind of gave, if I'm not mistaken, I think, did Joseph Parks actually get the pin?
No, he hit the splash, and then I believe it was Chavo Guerrero who pinned. I believe it was Daniels, I think, that got pinned.
Yes, thank you. That's correct. Thank you very much. So, it was but like I said, the action itself was a great match. A lot of action, a lot of quick pins. So I'll give it a 3.5 out of 5. So.
The winner of British Boot Camp from TNA, Rockstar Spud, over the past couple of weeks has been in a feud with Robbie E and Robbie T, which also started highlighting some tension between these two, which kind of would lead me to believe that the gimmick could be breaking between Robbie E and Robbie T. And so we had a matchup between Rockstar Spud and Robbie E. I was very impressed with Rockstar Spud. He took a lot of heat in this match, but also in return, he also had some very good spots. Um, the the finish came with Robbie E trying to grab the list out of the hand of Robbie T. Robbie T would not let it go, and then we see a victory roll by Rockstar Spud gaining the win over Robbie E. Now, Robbie E post match was very upset with the actions of Robbie T, and then starts to confront him, and then and kind of pie face him, and then slap the face of Robbie T, which then caused him to one, take off the shirt because the dude is a freak, and two, when you get a guy that big mad at you, whether it's scripted or not, is a scary thing to look at. And Robbie E kind of took off, which kind of now signifies to me that possibly the gimmick with Robbie E and Robbie T is now coming to an end. So you know, well, in all honesty, the gimmick with Robbie and Robbie T never really went anywhere. To be honest with you, on TV, yeah, they had their little thing they did on TNA's YouTube channel, The List, which, at some points it was funny, and some points it was not. But again, we might now have, the end of Robbie T and Robbie E, and possibly now a feud starting between Rob Terry. You notice how I say Rob Terry and not Robbie T, and Robbie E. So, 3.5 out of 5 on that one. I was also, again, very impressed with Rockstar Spud. So, let's go up to the next match, Rick, which saw the Knockouts title on the line. Velvet Sky, Tara taking on Velvet Sky, Gail Kim, and Miss Tessmacher with Brooke Hogan there at ringside to make sure there are no shenanigans.
Um, Again, the Knockouts division never fails, to disappoint me. This was another great match. I hate to mark out TNA, but you know what? When I watch TNA over the WWE as of late, it becomes a lot more entertaining on all their matches. Maybe sometimes it could be disappointing. Sometimes it could be, it can be a little bit predictable, but it's still entertaining regardless. And this match was very, very entertaining. I kind of knew who was going to get the win on this match because this person, before I get to it, has been very, very deserving of the title. But she, it pretty much was an elimination style match. It wasn't just it wasn't a triple threat. So if I'm not mistaken, that Tara was the first one to go, who was the champion at the time, and then Miss Tessmacher got the pin, and then of course it came down to Gail Kim and Velvet Sky, and Velvet Sky hits her with her version of the. It's the, I forget what she calls the move.
In your face.
In your face. Thank you very much. I keep on forgetting that move all the time. In your face, and she now becomes the Knockouts champion, which again I've said before is probably the most deserving Knockouts champion right now at this moment. So I definitely have to give it a 4 out of 5 match.
Take note, Oksana. Take note, Tamina. Take note, Alicia Fox.
Learn how to wrestle.
Next up, we had a one-on-one encounter between Garrett Bischoff and Samoa Joe, which apparently in the first 5 minutes of the match in itself, it just featured Garrett Bischoff running around on the outside of the ring. And then we got to an actual okay match between the two. And, we didn't get a finish, and because we had Wes Briscoe come in and do a run-in. And then, lo and behold, Kurt Angle returns. He comes to save the day with Samoa Joe. And then I believe, if I remember, because at some point on Impact Wrestling this week, for on my end, the Spanish commentary was playing instead of the English commentary, which for the life of me, I have no idea why it was doing that to me. But
they were trying to teach you Spanish.
Yeah. Andale arriba. Anyway, looks like Kurt Angle is throwing down, I believe, a challenge to Garrett Bischoff.
Yes, he was. He was trying to say that was a challenge. Actually, he was saying the match was actually set up for a lockdown inside a steel cage. Wasn't a challenge. He was saying it's all set up, it's done, and Wes Briscoe wasn't happy. In fact, Taz was like, how can that even happen? It's all set, but in fact, it's done. The match is set. according to him. It's not a challenge; it's a match.
Okay, well, to me, I actually talked about it on last week's Impact, and also when we had the big reveal of Wes Briscoe and Garrett Bischoff being in the Aces and Eights, that something like this could take place, whether it be inside Lethal Lockdown with Samoa Joe and Kurt Angle being on Team TNA and Garrett Bischoff and Wes Briscoe being on Team Aces and Eights, or whether they're going to have their own separate match. And it looks like, what we learned tonight, they're going to have their own separate match. 3.5 out of 5, because even though it was still okay content, it was the predictability of it just kind of drained it for me. Next up, Rick, we had the X Division title on the line, which saw RVD, who's been champion for quite some time in TNA, I believe since probably Bound for Glory, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe even before that, taking on, no, it was at Bound for Glory, because I believe it was Zema Ion taking on RVD, and RVD won it from him, if I'm not mistaken. But it's RVD defending the title once again against Kenny King, which kind of leads me to ask the next question: where are all the X Division guys?
Yeah, that's a big problem lately with the TNA. TNA used to thrive on the X division, and they've just kind of dropped out. One thing that they say, what's next for they actually was going to do a segment next week for AJ Styles. They said, what's next for AJ Styles? I would like to see him come back and say, hey, have him come back and maybe take over the the X division, because you know what? If he can't do anything in the World Heavyweight division, have him come back and take over the X division, because you know what? I'd like to see him take that over. Have him come back and say, you know what? I'm going to come in and win the X division. I'm going to come back and win the tag team division, and just come back and just dominate TNA and every other division. I'd like to see that happen. I think we talked about this before, earlier in 2012, if I'm not mistaken. But getting to this particular match, yeah, RVD, no big surprise here, did defeat Kenny King. Kenny King has a great future as far as the X Division wrestler. This was a great match, a lot of great spots. But of course, at the end of the day, RVD pretty much won with a Rolling Thunder and the five-star Frog Splash. As much as I do respect RVD, he's becoming a bit of a spot monkey. I don't want to rain on the parade, but that's what it's becoming down to. Would you agree a bit with that, Billy?
RVD's always been a spot monkey as far as I'm concerned.
Hey, I've tried not to get to that point. I'm trying not to start using that word, but now that I've been watching a little bit more, but I kind of just, maybe I've just noticed it, or maybe I'm just starting to watch things a little bit more closely. I've noticed it a little bit, like I said, first with Randy Orton, and now that I'm watching things, I'm starting to see things, more clearly, and pay things a little bit more closely to, certain people, because people always used to get on John Cena's ass, and now I see it that it's John Cena's not the only person who's playing these games. So. But nonetheless, it was an okay match. No complaints there overall. 3 out of 5.
Main event time for Impact Wrestling. We saw 3 members of Aces and Eights in the form of the TNA television title. Wow, that's a very prestigious title in TNA now. Devon, Mr. Anderson, and Doc taking on Bully Ray and Sting. We hear Hulk Hogan's music, but no sign of Hulk Hogan. It's supposed to be the famed return of Hulk Hogan in London. It was promised in the UK that Hulk Hogan was going to wrestle, but no sign of the Hulkster anywhere, which now turns the main event into a 3-on-2 handicap match. Rick, I'm going to pass this on to you at this point, because both of us have a major gripe against Bully Ray and what he did in this match, and I'm going to go ahead and let you voice your opinion about it.
Yeah, Bully Ray, first off, he's supposed to be coming to the ring hurt. You could see that his quad was taped up. He's limping, but if you watch the match, he's got no problem lifting that same leg up to almost like somebody's chest and kicking. I'm like, wow, if your quad is really hurting, how can you kick someone with no problems? That makes no sense to me. So that's a kayfabe injury. I'm sorry. I don't care if it's pulled, torn. No, That's not torn. Sorry, I'm not buying it. Even if it was a mild tear, you could not do that. You could not sit there and do that kind of a kick. And then on top of that, while he's being, during the match, all the wrestlers are tagging the quad.
Yeah, exactly. Now finish of this match came. We were all wondering what happened with the Hulkster. Well, we start to see what exactly is going on as Mike Knox and I forget who was the other member of Aces and Eights that had a hold. Well, I think it might have been the Masked Leader. That was holding on to Brooke Hogan, and then we see Hulk Hogan stammer out after, as if he has been beating. Yeah, that's one good way to say, Hulk Hogan. We promise you we're gonna show you Hulk Hogan wrestling, but instead we're gonna show you a supposed beatdown of Hulk Hogan that happened backstage where nobody saw it. So that's one good way to see that, and during the section, Bully Ray hobbles out to come rescue his wife, I say in quotation marks, Brooke Hogan, and see about his father-in-law, Hulk Hogan, which leaves Sting all by himself inside the Aces and Eights. And, of course, with the numbers advantage, Aces and Eights, and I believe Devon is the one that scored the pinfall on Sting, and then left Sting alone to a beatdown. So so another supposed ending, and I kind of figured, they promised Hulk Hogan's going to wrestle on an Impact Wrestling, and then, they kind of pulled this stunt. To me, very, very, very predictable. 3 out of 5 as far as I'm concerned, Rick.
As far as the predictability, I'm kind of glad that Hulk Hogan didn't wrestle. So for me, that's a bit of a plus.
Yes.
The ending, yeah, that's where predictability came in. But I'm going to tell you, as far as I'm not going to complain. So I'll just leave it at that. The endings are getting to be a little bit more, predictable. But I'll just say the overall show is still a lot better of a product so far, as of late, as the other show.
Well, let's get to our overall thoughts on Impact Wrestling this week. To me, the score from me, it gets a 3.5 out of 5. Opening with Hulk Hogan and Bully Ray, even though, they're still good on the microphone, but the fact that they promise Hulk Hogan is going to wrestle, really, especially with Bully Ray, who's supposed to be selling a quad injury. The 8-man tag, I thought was really good. Rockstar Spud and Robbie E, again, to me, I really think we've seen the demise of the gimmick between Robbie E and Robbie T, and I believe probably on next week's Impact Wrestling, Rob Terry will be making his return. Velvet Sky winning the Knockouts title, just like Rick Starr said, a knockout that's very deserving. And again, take note, WWE divas like Tamina, Alicia Fox, and Oksana in this match, because they see female wrestlers who are not only hot, but they actually have in-ring ability. Garrett Bischoff and Samoa Joe, I believe it was just to set up the whole situation that's going to happen between them at Lockdown. RVD and Kenny King, great X Division match, but again, where are the rest of the supposed X Division stars in TNA? And then the main event, Devon, Mr. Anderson, and Doug scheduled defeating Sting, Bully Ray, and of course the beatdown of Hulk Hogan. I think the only really plus to this is we didn't see Hulk Hogan wrestling. No offense to the Hulkster. I got mad respect for the Hulkster and everything he's done in the past. But that's the thing. It's in the past. It's not he doesn't have what he had in the past right now in the present. That's all I'm going to say. 3.5 out of 5 on this one. Rick, what about you?
I have to agree with you a lot of what you said. First off, I'm just going to say the opening segment, it wasn't too bad. I mean, like I said, we didn't promise Hulk Hogan wrestling. Okay, it probably wouldn't have been too bad. Again, the injury thing was really a little too much. I know that they're trying to set up Bully Ray or someone for a heel turn. I mean, it's obviously got to be Bully Ray, and I do have to agree with the Studley Man Ashley. I think he's right on key with that one. As far as the matches for this, for TNA, I had really no major issues. Just the main event match, yeah, it was just kind of like getting me just the same old stuff. Just the main event was the only one where I really had issues. The main event was the biggest one, and that's the saddest part. This is the one we should be the best, and it was the worst, unfortunately. But all the other matches were phenomenal. They were great to watch. They were entertaining, not as predictable because you really didn't know what was going to happen with some of them. some of them you did, but the predictability was down. It wasn't, as predictable as World Wrestling predictability. So I'm definitely going to get a 4 out of 5 stars.
So what we want to know now from you guys out there, viewers and subscribers, your thoughts on Impact Wrestling this week. Be sure you put your comments in the comment section below. Don't forget to like and favorite this video. Rick Starr is over on Hardcore Wrestling Radio every Wednesday night on blogtalkradio.com/Hardcore Wrestling Radio. Rick, what you got coming up next week?
Well, next week we got a new segment coming up. We're going to call it the F Game. And basically what that means is, obviously, if you don't know what the F, we talk about the word, the F word. And, come join me, Andy, and anybody else who wants to come on in and see if you can bounce around the F word.
And the hint, it's not fudge.
That's right. We will say fudge, we'll say foobar, we'll say a lot of other words, but we'll just say that. And if you bounce on that word, well, we'll have some favorite members from DX who just might remind you of watch your effing mouth.
That's every Wednesday night, 7 p.m. Central Time on blogtalkradio.com/Hardcore Wrestling Radio. Also, don't forget to please subscribe to youtube.com/WrestleGamer and youtube.com/ZFX TV Network. So for the Illuminous One, the Shining Star Rick Starr, I'm Double B Billy Boudreaux, saying thank you very much for watching.
Star concerts. Star concerts. Star concerts. Star concerts. Spiritual speaking. Star concerts. Star concerts. I'm Haley Ringrose. Star concerts.
My name's Andrew Weatherall.
Spiritual speaking. Star concerts.